I grew up in a small little village of Bettsville, Ohio. My family life, I mean, it was both my mom and dad's side. It was all close. With two sisters, I am the youngest, so I was always a mama's boy. My dad, he was always hard on me. He did construction back in Ohio. My dad's always taught me, hard work, honesty, respect, and just hard work. Out of high school, graduating, I worked at, Clyde's known for Whirlpool. I was putting washers and dryers together and realized this isn't fun. And then my dad was still doing construction when we came back, and he wanted to go more into excavating. So I was like, man, well, let's see what this Army has to do. Like, see if there's anything that I can do, that I can get the training, and then I can just work for my dad. And full intent was to join the reserves. When I went to go sign the papers, my recruiter's like, hey, we ain't got no jobs in the reserves for this. All we have is active duty. And I was like, let's do active duty. My mom was pissed. I don't know, I just got a hunch and I just went. Everybody's on a bus and it's calm. It almost sounds too good to be true. And it's all the drill sergeants. You can tell by their hats. One guy gets on and he's yelling, but it's kind of a calm yell. And all of a sudden, it goes haywire. You can't get off that bus fast enough. You can't get your bags high enough on you. Yeah, I've tanned rocks in parking lots. I've mopped water in the parking lot when it's raining. I've cut grass with scissors in a field. So, I mean, I said you embrace the suck, but as long as you're all doing it together, you build that camaraderie. You're baking cookies and you open up that oven and that heat wave hits you. I said that's what it felt like. I immediately got off and was like, I want to go back on. I knew I was going to Iraq, but at the time I figured I was going to be on base. So I wasn't worried about anything. They give us a brief, hey, you're going to hear alarms going off. If it says incoming, they're shooting rockets at us. The unit that we were replacing said, we don't ever have rockets here. Well, for whatever reason, it seemed like every day we got rockets. And then you started getting complacent. That was my first initial, all right, I'm leaving the wire. Now I'm going out there. At the time we were tearing down bases in Iraq. It was when we were getting ready to leave. We drove all over the country, built a lot of relationships. Luckily, it was a very successful deployment. We crossed over, guns on the trucks, all your armor's on. As soon as we crossed over that, it was like whoosh, everything down. There was no more guns on trucks. There's no more armor. It was just like a relief of like, all right, whew, I got through that one. And then the call came that we were going back. At this point, you're like, man, I just got out of there. Like, now I got to go back. Now suddenly, how lucky can I get? You're worried. You feel like you're on your game. You're paying attention. You have great situational awareness. We did take mortar fire, and there was a gentleman that was his third or fourth deployment. The alarm started going off. We looked at each other and we're like, it never hits close to us. Still think there's a luck game to it. Well, we heard all the other chairs sliding across the ground, so we're like, well, maybe we should do what they're doing. We're like, it ain't gonna happen to me, right? We got in the bunker, and it's right outside the door for the MWR was a volleyball net. That's where that mortar hit. And the guy that served and did 3 or 4 deployments was sitting in the bunker, freaking out. Like, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. It was at that moment, and I was like, this is real. You do become numb, and then it's only for a split second, but then you start, all right, let's start implementing all of the training that I did. We get back, we still have our unit, we still have that rear detachment waiting for us. So that rear detachment are just individuals that have came to our unit that are just waiting for us to get back to be a part of our unit. Fresh guys out of basic or AIT. We started to build that bond where, on the weekends we were going to the ocean or going to the beach and hanging out. There was one individual, he was a little troubled, not for what he was doing, but just people not liking him. Sunday, July 28th, I seen Garrett come down Sunday morning. Everything was good. I just started my shift. I was bullshitting with him for a little bit. Later on in the day, he ended up coming back. I was still talking to him, and he was saying how he just bought, this dirt bike. He just bought a new truck. He was kind of like spending all this money, and I was like, I don't know where you're getting all that money. I'm private too, You must be really good with your money, right? And I get a phone call from from a buddy. It says he's not with us no more. Made me think, what could I have done? I should have seen the red flags. And I didn't. We always talked about being our brother and sister's keepers. And we failed them. I gotta take a break on that one.
I met Corey in 2016, probably around April-ish, because my daughter Peyton just turned 2. We kind of joke about it now, but when he showed up for the first date to my house, he brought a book bag. So I'm like, oh, you plan to stay forever, I guess. So the military thing kind of actually drew me in when I seen pictures of him, and we started talking, and just him talking about the hard work that he's done, what he's been through, kind of all attracted me to him. And then when he met my daughter, that was kind of it for me. Yeah, Corey with Peyton is something that I'm very grateful for. She looks up to him as a second dad. Yeah, I was working 2 jobs at the time, and you kind of know when you're pregnant, so I wasn't feeling the greatest at work, so I took a test, and I couldn't hold it in any longer, so I went and got like a pacifier, I think at Drug Mart or something, and I let him look at it, and he's like, what is this? I'm like, you're gonna be a dad. He just came back one day and said, I have orders, and I'm like, orders for what? And he's like, I'm gonna be deployed. And it was just like, my heart sank.
They went to the airport with me.
A lot of the other families were around. I believe it was me, the kids, and his mom. And we seen, the plane sitting there. And
they watched me get onto that plane.
When it was time for them to finally go, it was like it kind of hits you all at once. Saying your goodbyes.
And once I get on that plane, I'm looking out that side window, and I can see him on the tarmac, waving to me.
Not knowing if you're gonna see him again.
Well, that's a long flight, and there's a lot of thoughts that go through your head, I hope Carson remembers me. I want to watch the kids grow up. I don't want Shelby to worry about that every knock on the door, that it's somebody coming to tell her that I'm not coming home. I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was going for. I did sign up for it. I knew Shelby had my back.
Having 2 young kids, Carson was still young enough. I don't think he fully understood what was happening. But that was my main goal while Corey was gone, is to make sure that he remembered Dad. And
she always made it where the kids knew who I was, what I was doing, and why I was doing it.
What Dad was doing, and that he'll be back soon. And Peyton and Corey were very close at that time, so it was very hard for her to lose that person that she's always counted on. She would ask me several times, when are you coming home? When's he gonna be back? And just kind of explaining that over and over to the kids was got exhausting after a while, and you get frustrated because you're doing everything on your own. It's like you can't talk to him because you don't know what he's going through over there. So
once I found out I was deploying, I let my leadership know that I was gonna have to do a military leave.
you start to realize all the little things that you don't really think about until someone's not there anymore.
That MWR, was a great place for soldiers to go and just kind of unwind. But then they had this area where they had books, and they had this program where you could, read a book in front of a camera, videotape it, and then you could send that flash drive back home. Shelby was telling me stories of how the kids loved it, but I know another one was Carson had a little stuffed animal that was an Army guy, and the face had a slot for a picture, and it was of me, and that was one way that was to help remember who I was.
Probably the hardest part during deployment was the holidays and birthdays, that he wasn't there. I know there was one of Peyton's that he missed, and I remember her, being upset because he wasn't there. So her kind of being older and understanding, it was probably the hardest part was the Christmas and birthdays.
I remember receiving a text message or a messenger message from Shelby that says, "Hey, so Katie contacted me and she wants to know what the kids want for Christmas." And I said, "No, we're not doing it." I said, "We got it. It's fine. We'll take care of it."
Kwest stepped up. I'm emotional thinking about it, but they had carloads of gifts for the kids. Us ourselves, I don't think we could ever top that. So it was one of the best Christmases that the kids had. I'm just very thankful for that.
Really, the hardest job in the military is being a spouse, because they're doing it alone.
When he came home from deployment, we kind of fell back into like that honeymoon phase where everything was great, and then it's like reality sits in, and here I had all these rules, and I was, having the kids do certain routines and discipline, and we were just clashing on everything. And then I started noticing like his irritability and just the anger that he had bottled up, and it just got to be too much. And that's when I told him, I'm like, you have to talk to someone or we're not gonna make it.
To hear that, I was like, man, I want to be a part of my kid's life. I want to be a part of Peyton's life. I want to be a part of Shelby's life. So for her to just bluntly tell me, it was huge for me. It was an eye opener. Like, hey, I need to start turning for help.
Corey confiding in me saved our marriage. It saved our family.
Yeah, my initial talk to a therapist was really, I was worried, like, I didn't want them to think that I was some psychopath. But it was with an individual that had no knowledge of any military whatsoever. So to talk to them and then just feel the weight lifted off my shoulders was huge. At that point is when I realized, but I don't know why I always bottle it in, just talk. Whether it's to somebody that knows or somebody that don't know. So now one of my coping methods is just talk. I'll just throw it out there. I stayed honest to myself, stayed honest to them. I respected everything. I respected life. I respected, what could be the outcome. And I just trusted it. The difference in me, and that I'm very grateful for, is just everything that I've learned. Everybody that I've been around, different walks of life. Some of the values that I've learned from the military is, your loyalty, your respect, and your selfless service. It's everything that I can relate to in life, everything I can relate to, working at Kwest. I'm grateful for the community for all their support. For Shelby, it's got to be all those same things: support, love, and understanding, but also the shoulder to lean on, the understanding. She's my rock.
having him home, just being a shoulder to lean on. You know, I could always count on him to have my back. Just having him there to be present.
Lean on each other, for sure. Definitely lean on each other.
Whether it's another spouse or a family or a friend, just have that support team ready for you because you're going to need it at some point, and just push through. Just push through.
It's time to talk.
Homecoming for Corey Crowell welcomed him back after serving a year overseas in the Army. Photojournalist Zach Carrion takes us to the celebration in Oak Harbor.